So, a question: what did anger teach you as a child? If you can maybe go back in time, what were some of the lessons that you learned growing up about anger, whether that was your own anger or anger by someone in your family or community or another child's anger? What did you learn? What were some of the lessons about anger? Some of the things that I learned about anger is that anger wasn't allowed. And it was an unspoken understanding that anger wasn't allowed. And I don't know if you all have that experience as well. And so when I think about working with anger, I feel like at first it's really important um, to let them know, to let our clients know that we see them, that we hear them, that those parts that we're attuned, we're following their lead. These parts have often gone years, sometimes decades, if we move it into adulthood without anyone attuning to them. So when I work with children around anger, mistrust, grief, fear, shame, I really want them to know that I hear you. Because often, and you all have already named it, these emotions have not been allowed. And so making space for them to be present is super important. Intentionally reflecting back, what is the angry voice saying or the angry part saying? Reflecting back the feelings, the inner realities. When a child says, I'm scared or I don't trust people or I'm so angry, really practicing, like not rushing to fix or soothe or reinterpret or make it a moment of, well, what's good in your life, or like bringing out the positive, just letting the anger, the mistrust, the grief, the fear, the shame be present. And then, in terms of like, did I get this? Well, let me go back. And so as we're like kind of thinking about like, often anger is misunderstood. I always ask it explicitly, like, am I getting that right? Or are you feeling understood in this moment? That often lets my clients know that their truth matters, that their emotions matter, that no matter how messy or loud or extreme they're showing up, that matters too. That every experience that they've had, that it's valid. For many of our clients, we may be the only person in their life who has ever affirmed their emotions without judgment. So we explicitly name that they have every right to feel what they feel. We name that their anger again, that it makes sense, that their rage, that it makes sense. And I may have named this before, but I will even say to my clients, like, yeah, you've got a lot of reasons to be angry. Yeah, I get that, you know, letting them know that they're not alone in that. So inviting those emotions to come forward, to be held, to be witnessed, instead of swallowed. Uh, when I work with children, again, around these really vulnerable experiences of grief and fear and shame and mistrust and anger, in our field, we talk a lot about like the importance of incorporating play therapy. I think that's really, really healing, even for adults. Um, and so I may include figurines or play or allowing children to act out a scene, a little bit of drama therapy and or choosing a cartoon character or a superhero. Um, I used to work with a client that would carry every session, he would bring, I think they're called Roblox, and he'd have them in every pocket. And he would express his anger through the battles with the Roblox and putting them all strategically on the floor in different positions. And that was the language in which he wanted me to understand his emotions. And for him, every Roblox had a personality. They had certain traits, certain gifts, but that was how he communicated. Sometimes we externalize these deep emotions through drawing, through painting, through listening to music, creating a story. I've sat with children that said, hey, can I pull up YouTube and have you listen to this song that expresses my pain? And then that allowed them to like create a playlist that we would only listen to in therapy. And it was just, this was their way of, again, revealing to me, this is how I want you to understand what I'm feeling. And so what we're doing in this work, this externalizing, helping them to externalize that pain, is kind of giving them the language, giving them the doorway to express their emotions, a way to release a lot of what's been trapped in their bodies, trapped in their nervous systems. Normalizing all of their emotions that maybe haven't been accepted elsewhere, that they're accepted with us. I also think it's like a really good practice to welcome a child's full humanity. You know, when we're letting them know that all of their emotions make sense. Um, I'm even thinking about, I'm a grandmother. I've got twin twin girls, not twin, my daughter has twins, and so my grandchildren, even letting them when they're angry with me because they have to eat dinner or they have to go to bed, they're only 4. And so letting them know early that you get to be angry, that you have to go to bed now. Like it's okay. Um, we're not going to change that fact, but you get to be angry about it. Um, and so, but for the clients that we work with, allowing their parts to finally exhale, to soften, to trust that they don't have to carry all of those emotions alone, that they can be validated. In terms of weaponized resilience, when I talk about weaponized resilience, what I'm naming is a very real cultural indoctrination that many of us, especially those of us in marginalized communities, have lived inside our entire lives. It's the belief that you should be able to go through absolutely anything, the most insurmountable circumstances, the deepest losses, the most unfair and traumatic experiences, and you should be okay. You should be able to still function no matter what you go through. That you should still be able to thrive, to pull yourself back up, to smile, to show up as if nothing hurts. And if you do hurt, then that hurt must be time limited. Often we grow up in communities where if you are grieving, if you are angry, if you are in pain, there's a time limit. You're not allowed to feel that for any extended amount of time. Mostly the people in our lives want us to get over it and get through it. we're socialized into a culture that treats happiness and calmness and emotional stability as the default state. And anything outside of that, anger, grief, fear, silence, overwhelm, exhaustion, is treated as a problem to fix, something to manage, something that requires a coping skill instead of compassion, instead of community, and instead of a practice of care, really consistent care. I remember working as a school-based therapist, and I would often tell my kiddos that happiness is not that's not the default emotion. So they get to be frustrated. They get to be tired of the messiness in their home lives, the peer-to-peer, the competitions and the drama in school and all of the things like they get to have moments where there's no words or there's just isolation that they don't have to always be happy. And me just naming that for them was actually the first time that they'd ever heard that they could be something other than happy, that's a part of the human condition.